Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday to you. Today is Tuesday, August the 22nd, 2023, and we're here at the Assembly Hall, 901 Main Street in the heart of Old Town Conyers, and we are calling our meeting to order. And this morning we want to start off with our item number 2 as we address the 2023 millage rate.
Mr. Chairman, before you this morning, you have the 2023 millage rate resolution. It's a resolution to levy taxes for the fiscal year 2023.
All right. Commissioners, what is your pleasure regarding the millage rate?
So I move to set the 2023 millage rate at 18.69 and to set the 2023 host percentage at 64.8% and to adopt the resolution as presented.
And I second that motion. It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Go right
So
ahead.
do we know what this 64.8%, what that's going to look like regarding all of the presentations that we've given with the amount of taxes that would have to be assessed on a $100,000 and a $300,000 home?
And thank you so much, Commissioner Washington. I will call up Mr. Corbin. Come on up, Mr. Corbin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Madam.
Pull your mic there, Mr. Corbin,
Sure,
where they
yes,
can hear
yes,
you.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Right now, we've got great news. Last couple of years,
Well, I can't hear you. so I
I'm
know.
sorry. We've got great news, I believe. Last couple of years, we have been giving a portion, we've always given a portion of the host that we've collected over a period of every year. This year, we went back and we did a deep dive, even as late as last night, trying to put together, listening to citizens. We are recommending 100% of the dollars that we collect be allocated to host this year against the tax bill this year. In past years, we've given as low as 75%. This year, we're recommending 100% on the tax as a tax credit. So every dollar we collect in sales taxes, it will now be applied to offsetting the final tax bill.
But how does that compute when it's 64.8 as opposed to 75? Like, I need for everybody to understand it because I'm sure in people's minds, it looks like we're lowering
It
the
does.
host to a place where we've never been since I've been here. So I just need,
And that is a very good question. In the last year, the digest values have increased.
okay,
So the amount of hosts that we get, which is approximately $23 million, once we divide that number effectively by an increased digest, that looks like you're getting less, but proportionately, we're giving 100% credit for every dollar that we've actually collected. In past years, we've given less, but this year we're giving, we're recommending that we give it all to the citizens.
okay. So does that mean that when we've told the citizens that we would that their tax bill with a 75% host would be $491 on a $300,000 home, what does that look like with the host at 64.8%?
That number is going to go, again, slightly down.
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 So it should be less than $491.
Correct. In addition,
Even with the 18.69 millage rate.
that's correct. And in addition, they're also getting the host grant as well that's coming in this year. Not the host grant, but the homestead tax grant from the governor's office as well.
Okay.
So they should see a net decrease on their tax bills.
Okay. So I'm just making sure that
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
clear.
Yes, ma'am.
With a 64.8% host, even though we don't have the exact number, because the digest has increased, the amount of money that will be applied to the taxes would increase, so that $490, I think it was $491, should be less than that. Plus, we have the governor's
Homestead tax grant.
homestead's tax credit.
Correct.
That's what we're saying.
That's correct. In addition,
In
just to make
addition.
just to make sure we're clear, the dollars that we're earmarking for host this year are actually greater than what they were last year. And
Okay.
again, historically, we've given a fraction, and I say fraction meaning 75% of what's collected. We're now, after, again, we've dug into the numbers, pretty much the last couple of days to make sure we've got it all right. We're actually requesting or recommending an allocation of 100% of what's actually collected.
So I guess what I don't understand is why this wouldn't be 100% host.
Because if we gave 100% of host, we are giving 100% of
The money
of the money, because we can't give a greater amount than what we actually have collected.
collected. So over the years, we've collected more money, but we've only given a certain percentage a certain percentage of relief, but we had more money. This year, we're saying we're gonna give all of the money, but only at a lesser percentage.
We're going to give 100% of the money we collect. In prior years,
Right.
we've given not 100% of the money that we collected as a credit.
Right,
We've given less.
less,
This year, we're giving 100% of what we collected.
which should make
Bill-
I really wish I had time to see some numbers. I need numbers, because I'm still a little confused.
So I think the easiest way to get it so that we all understand it is for every dollar that we bring in sales taxes, the citizens are going to get credit for every dollar of that.
Right,
It's
so
gonna-
we
it's
have
gonna-
always done that.
And they're going to get every dollar credit as opposed to a portion of that which had been granted in prior years. So the allocation that you're asking about looks slightly different because the digest has grown, right? So the numbers that we can control are how much we give of the host dollars that we've collected. The recommendation this year is to give 100% of that number as a full credit.
So do we, I think those are all of my questions right now. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Corbin.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we have a motion on the floor
We have a motion and a second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, that's a unanimous vote. All right, well, now we'll move down to board comment. We'll start with Commissioner Washington.
Once again, this is the hardest part of this job, because we do have to take into consideration what's in the best interest of the county, initiatives that we have that are moving the county forward, but also the pockets of the citizens. One of the things that I'm proud of with this millage rate is that not only does it encompass the debt service, it also encompasses, this is the year that we put the raises actually in the budget, and we're paying for them this year with this millage rate. So I'm very proud of that fact, and so are our employees. That's all I would say today.
Commissioner Williams.
So, in the past, there's been a movement through the state legislature to ensure that 100% of the host tax we collect is returned to the citizens. And that's exactly what we're doing this year. Even though we've had to lower that credit, we are actually giving out 100% of all the revenue that comes in will go to the citizens as a credit.
And
So that makes me happy. I don't know what to say about the 64.8%. It does mean that everybody's going to pay a little bit more than what we had thought. Fortunately, this year it's going to be offset with the governor's homestead exemption, but that won't happen next year. So those are my comments.
And Commissioner Washington, you had some additional comments?
Well, I was just gonna say, because I come in as you all know, said not to vote for the millage rate, but the 100% allocation of the host is what got me to change my mind. And well, there you go.
Okay, all right. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to our finance department and to our financial advisor, Mr. David Corbin. Our team have really taken a hard dive, a deep dive at all of these numbers and taken into consideration all of the feedback coming from the community, coming from this board. They've been crunching these numbers and taking a deep dive, reviewing over and over and over. And my understanding that even up to the moment last night, they were still looking at these numbers, trying to make sure that we can get to a good spot, or a good place, should I say, in reference to the future of Rockdale County and what we're doing. To Commissioner Washington's credit, she's absolutely correct. We made a decision as a board to increase the pay and salary for all of our hardworking employees coming after COVID and being able to compete in this market and being able to attract, maintain, and retain qualified, competent talent is very, very important. And we're still getting over the downfall of COVID, and I believe that we'll continue to move in a future and a forward direction in Rockdale County. So again, hats off to our finance department and the hard work. Absolutely correct. There's nothing easy. In fact, I often say, beware of easy. When you're in a position of leader, you got to make a tough decision. And sometimes, whether you the daddy or the mama or the person in charge of whatever's going on, somebody's going to leave not so happy. That's part of leadership. It's in the classroom, it's in the church, it's in the business. You have to have the wherewithal and the bandwidth as a leader to think globally for the entire county as a whole. So we're moving forward, and we have rested this decision. I do want to add, Executive Director Rutledge, that I'd like to open up the floor for comments from our citizens for this portion of our meeting related to the millage rate.
All right,
And then-
absolutely, Mr. Chairman. So what we'll do is we'll go into comment. If you had a public comment about the millage rate, we'll go ahead and hear that now instead of waiting until the end of the voting session. So I think some of those cards have already been turned in, and we will do 3 minutes per speaker and relative to the millage rate.
And if you haven't turned in a card, it's okay. We're going to give you an opportunity to do that right now. If you have a card, if you want to turn your card in as it relates to the millage rate, you can do that at this time. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and call up the first speaker. I think we got a couple of more cards that's going to make its way to the dais as we move forward. And I will start with Ms. Cheryl Garcia.
Actually, I'd like to talk about infrastructure, so. You can cross off my-
Okay, would you like to tie in infrastructure with millage rate as you have it on your card? Because if so, you can do it at this time. Come on up, Ms. Garcia.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners.
Good morning.
I want to say that I'm appalled with the increase, with the increase in home values, even with the steady millage rate. And thank you for the 100% post credit back to the taxpayers. I appreciate that. But with the millage rate and the increased home values, the county will be collecting higher tax revenues. And instead of repairing old, broken, corroded infrastructure, and I have some pictures that I'd like to share with all of you, the county decides to vastly increase the number of employees and the number of new residential units instead of repairing and replacing the infrastructure. We live in Gardens of Fieldstone, and we have a sinkhole that has been there for at least 8 years of the 15 years that we've lived here. And the sinkhole is at least 10 feet deep and 10 feet wide, about 5 feet behind the fence line of several property owners. A car could fall in there. And we've been trying to get it fixed, as I said, for years and years to no avail. All of this hiring and building a new judicial administrative complex, which was marketed by the county because the judiciary needed more space. And now it turns out that they have maybe, a third of the new proposed building, with 2/3 going to the administrative complex. It really saddens us tremendously. This kind of example that I'm going to show you is just one example of many, many infrastructure problems. We had one corroded pipe between my house and my neighbor's house, and 3 years of videos sent to the board, 3 years of meeting with the board. It took a lawsuit, which my neighbors prevailed in order to get the pipe fixed. That was supposed to go to the retention pond that was behind our home. And again, the county was, instead of just repairing it, they tried to blame us for it and say that, it's not, it's on private property and it's a storm water drain, just like this corroded one that is now leaking water under people's homes. This has got to be fixed. And we're tired of asking the county to fix infrastructure. You can't build new houses on old infrastructure. Thank you very much. May I approach and give you these pictures?
If you would just hand it to one of our gentlemen on the floor, we'll take care of it and we'll get it. Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that you do on behalf of the citizens of Rockdale County. Let me just take a moment, commissioners, and address the concerns coming from Ms. Garcia. I want to first start out, Ms. Garcia, by saying thank you, and thank you for your comments this morning. We've talked about the aging and neglected infrastructure that has been here, particularly in the area of stormwater, for a number of years. So you are correct. All over Rockdale County, there are aging infrastructure, pipes, deteriorated pipes, and you talk about all of the roadway in Rockdale County. It certainly does. Takes time to prioritize to be able to get out to all of those roads, and even including the subdivisions that you referenced. Several subdivisions were erected and developed in Rockdale County back in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, approved by previous boards. And now we're seeing the results of poor judgment and poor decision and some of the shabby code work from the inspectors from back then. So you are exactly right. We have been hurrying, scurrying, trying to fix and address all of the multiple problems in and around the county as it relates to infrastructure, and that includes stormwater infrastructure. Oftentimes when we have these torrential downpours, some yards, I receive photos, videos. I've gone out to several sites myself, and some folks' backyards, the side of their yards, look like Lake Erie. That's due to work that was approved many moons ago. Well, we're not in the business of the blame game. We're the Board of Commissioners now. So whatever existing subdivision, community, or neighborhood that's standing now, we are here now addressing the problems. Whether it was approved properly or correctly way back then or not, we're the ones doing the cleanup and fixing it now. There's so many issues, multiple problems. It takes time to prioritize what gets fixed first. And everybody believes their problem is greater than the other problem. So it takes time. So I do appreciate what you brought this morning. Please understand that our stormwater division, our water department, all of our infrastructure, our Rockdale Department of Transportation are working diligently, almost around the clock, to catch up, to clean up, to return and to repair and to fix what was approved many years ago prior to any of these folks being here. So we're taking full responsibility because we believe that leadership is ownership. So with that being said, we're taking full responsibility, and I do thank you for that. I want to make sure that from a representative from our stormwater department, and in lieu of anybody being here from stormwater, I'm going to ask that Deputy Director Jameson, if you would make sure that Ms. Garcia gets your business card. Let's catch up and let's check in with what's going on, or perhaps what's not going on out in the gardens of Fieldstone. It is a concern, and we'll certainly make sure that it's on the list with the level of priority that is warranted. And I say to people all the time, when I think about infrastructure and some of the roadway in Rockdale County, we have a grading system that grades the level of the need based upon the severity of the situation. And sometimes folks look at their roads and say, wait, my road is really in need of repair or resurfacing. And then we show them some of the other areas. They take a deep breath and they hold tight. There are multiple priorities and there's plenty of work to be done. We're at it. It didn't just happen under this watch. A lot of it was due, as I mentioned earlier, due to neglect from previous years. We're here and we're addressing it road by road, subdivision by subdivision, decay and deteriorated pipe by decay and deteriorated pipe. And some of those pipes, I must say, are no longer part of industry standards. So even those pipes that were put in the 60s and the 70s, the 80s and the 90s, they don't even put pipe down like that anymore because it's not up to industry standards. Please be patient with us, pardon our progress. Infrastructure is high up on our priority, and we're moving forward to address that accordingly. I'm going to call up the next speaker. I have one other card. Do we have any other cards? Okay. All right. I want to make sure we afford everybody the opportunity to have a say. All right. Citizen Mr. Oden. Richard Oden. Come on up, Mr. Oden.
Ladies and gentlemen, commissioners, good morning.
Good morning.
I stand before you today at deep concerns. I know many of us have been in this community for 20-something years. Some have been public servants for 18, 20 years. Infrastructure, I want to get to the millage rate. Seniors in this community are very disturbed. Thank you for the consideration of the host. The information shared a couple weeks ago in regards to selling the house, etc., it doesn't really apply to the seniors because seniors can't sell their houses. They're not going to sell their homes. We need to revisit that thought process right there. These seniors are on limited income. And every time you go up on your taxes or grow back to a certain point, that only impacts insurance, it impacts mortgage rates, etc., etc., etc. So we have a major problem. I like the infrastructure conversation. Old Town is probably have the oldest infrastructure in the county. Main Street, Millstead, Pine Log, all those streets. To put brand new facilities on old infrastructure is ludicrous. It's ludicrous because we had that issue back in the early 2015-16. Gas pipes exploded in Conyers. We had to shut down the city. So to put new facilities on top of old infrastructure just doesn't make good business sense. Those are my comments today. I also want to close out by saying the CARES Act funds and the ARP funds, those funds are going to hit us very, very soon because the federal government who gave that money to the county to give all these raises and increase all these employees, that money has now come to a close. So now what happens now is that money is going to hit the general fund budget, hit the citizens of this community as an increase. It's an increase because those funds are going to have to increase that budget, and we're watching that budget this year. So we suggest, as a community, stop hiring people. Slow it down. Put a hiring freeze on. Reduce your spending. It's good to always pay for employees. We love to pay people. People need more money, but the citizens need more money. You can't not tax your way out of debt. You can't not do it. Those are my comments, and I appreciate what each and every one of you are doing, but we'll see you in 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Oden, and thank you for all that you do on behalf of the citizens of Rockdale County. Ms. Gillett, come on up, Ms. Gillett.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Good morning.
The millage rate. In December last year, y'all set the budget for this year, 2023. You only need $57 million from property tax this year to fund the budget. The rest can come from franchise fees and other fees. The millage that you set today, 18.69. is going to generate 20 million more than you need to fund this budget. You've been spending on this budget all year, and now you're setting the millage rate to generate the money to pay for what you've been spending this year. And as of the end of May this year, 24 of the 29 departments were over their budget. The population has increased in the last 5 years by 6%, but your budget has increased over 36%. You could have reduced the millage rate. You could have even reduced it by 1/10 of a mill, like the school board has done in the past, and get to brag, well, we reduced the millage. But you didn't do that. You could have even gone down to 18.0 and still had 20 million more than what you need in property taxes to fund this year's budget. You've had the budget presentations the beginning of this month for the 2024 budget. The budget drives the millage. You're going to be adopting the 24 budget in December 2022 and spending on that until next year, when you have to set the millage again based on assessments, which will probably be increased, to fund the budget that you spend all next year. And stormwater fees. There's no legal reason why the stormwater fees need to be on the property tax bill. They're on there because of an MOU with the elected tax commissioner to put them on there. And her department gets more money to do that. The stormwater fees for 2021 were $102 per residential property, $114 in 2022. I'm wondering what they're going to be this year. And I believe that's all of my millage comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gillard, and thank you for all that you do on behalf of the citizens of Rockdale County. I think I have all of the comment cards. Is there anyone else that had a comment regarding what we just did by way of a card? Anybody have a comment by way of a card? Okay. And Ms. Turner, I know you raised your hand. I want to acknowledge you. If you like to fill out a card, I'm going to take a few moments and give you some time so you can get you a card and have an opportunity to speak. I'll tell you what, why don't you come on and speak, and Director Mills is so kind, she's going to get you a card, and we know you, so we'll get your information afterwards. Good morning.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to comment on the 100% host and some of the comments that were made. It sounded like to me that you all are considering what the governor is doing to allow you to do this 64. So I'm like Commissioner Washington. I'm kind of confused as to if we're getting 100% of the hosts, why is it going to be slightly higher? Are we going to get the entire, I don't know if it's entire 500. I think it's based on something, how much you get from the governor. But it sounds like to me that that has been considered in you all's calculation. Also, I know that the rollback rate is 15.895. You're setting a millage at 18.69. That's a 17% increase per your press release. It seems like to me that the citizens are not being considered. Instead of taking a 17%, you could have took a 15%. You're still going to get more, but you're being compassionate to the citizens. I mean, I think that everyone should gain or have some relief here, not just the county. You also mentioned when Ms. Garcia spoke, you talked about the infrastructure. You talked about the previous administration. You said you're not doing any blaming, but that's exactly what you're doing when you put it off on them. She said that this has been going on 8 years. You've been here that long or longer, so you can no longer talk about the previous administration, Because I understand, is it Lake Capri, some bridge that's just now getting done, Squire was just done, it's been out since 2019. That's your administration. So we cannot go backwards. We have to look at what our current administration is doing. And I think this pertains to the millage. You have reached in our pocket in several areas. One area is with the PFA, that you're going to include the debt in the budget, which you cannot levy property tax for bonds. We have a letter from the governor saying that. Last year you levied us $2 million. Commissioner Williams said that they needed it $6.6 million to show you qualify for bonds. That's the levy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner, and thank you for all that you do on behalf of the citizens here in Rockdale County. I want to clarify a few things. I want to say, first of all, thank you again to Ms. Turner, and you are at the right place at the right time. And I would suggest that, Mr. Corbin, if you would get with Ms. Turner immediately following our meeting to educate and explain and address her concerns. She certainly deserves clarification. The other thing I do want to make mention, as I was talking about the infrastructure, she's absolutely correct. I've been here at least 8 years. However, the subdivisions, the pipes, the infrastructure is way older than me. The subdivisions that are having the problems were built in the 60s and the 70s. The poor infrastructure on the roads didn't just come up in 8 years. However, we are the board that are addressing it right now. So we're not playing the blame game. Leadership is ownership. However, every road that needs addressing, every subdivision that needs some attention, regardless of whether they were built in the 60s, the 70s, or the 80s, or the 90s, we're having to address some of the poor engineering and poor decisions that was made way back then. Because back then, there was a county inspector that went out and approved and inspected those properties and was given the green light. Well, we found out today, some of those green lights should not have been given. We're not playing the blame game. We're accepting responsibility by addressing them one by one by one. And there are multiple across the county. So it does take time. When you plan the cleanup, man, and you cleaning up stuff that was done wrong way back 30, 40 years ago, it will take time to catch up and straighten it out. And I do want to make sure I say this, because all of our employees, and several of them, are watching and listening to this broadcast. Some are here. They're doing a fantastic job, because every day we're out there playing catch up and looking at work that should not have been approved way back 30, 40 years ago, and we're making it right. And it takes us one project behind another project by project, to get it done. So I want to make sure I say that to our employees. Keep up the good work. We appreciate what you're doing. We can only address one project at a time. Each one of those projects cost money. No matter how long it was done, we've got to pay the price today to get it fixed. So I hear you, and I hear you loud and clear, and I thank you for your support and your continued support of this administration and the direction that we're moving in. I think I have all of they still coming, kind of falling in there late, but come on up. Yes, sir. Come on.
You may not be able to say, but
That's okay. You speak to the mic. That's
all right.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
To
morning.
Chairman here, and to Ms. Sherry Washington and Ms. Doreen Williams. My name is Orland Gibson. Just a few minutes ago, Mr. Corbin, I believe your finance director, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's a
He
finance
said-
advisor.
A financial advisor. He alluded to the fact that that 100% of the monies or the revenues that are going to be taken in will go to the people. Now, I don't know what he means by that. Is that meaning it's going to the general fund? And if it's going to the general fund, what is that money allocated to do? The increase in the taxes and stuff. And I think that's something that should be clarified, because when you say to the people, I don't know what that means. So if you can clarify that and tell me what that means, I certainly appreciate it. And as far as the millage rate increase, really no one really likes to see an increase. Sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's too much, sometimes it's done in a way that certain projects have to be taken care of. But if you would address that question, and it may be Mr. Corman who addresses that, or Chairman, or whoever, but I'd like to know where those monies are going for.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. So,
right.
thank you so much. Again, you came to the right place at the right time. Mr. Corbin will see you before you exit the building this morning so that he can explain to you in reference to his comments regarding the millage rate. I do want to point out something. Myself and the Board of Commissioners have already hosted our budget review as we move through this budget season, and I think we spent 3 days dedicated to our budget review. And whether I'm correct about 2 days, 3 days, 1 day, 10 days, we've already done the budget review. So it was 2 days, and there was only 2 citizens that came out to pay attention to where the money is spent. How do we justify the spending? You see, the budget is an opportunity, and it's open to the public. If you want to, a lot of folks say, why, and show me the money. When we're going department by department, that's an opportunity to see where the money is appropriated, where it's allocated, and what the need is. You also get a chance to hear from the various department directors, as well as a few elected officials and members of our judicial community. You don't necessarily hear from the board. You hear from those content experts who are actually out there performing the work. From the courthouse, from the sheriff, from the fire chief, from several of our infrastructure department heads that explain and justify why the need is there. I was a little bit disappointed that all of the feedback we often receive concerning the millage rate didn't have a lot of folks to show up during budget time when we're actually appropriating the funds that make the county do what it does. I'll also add this, Commissioners. Particularly this year, we've had an extra amount of rain during the summer months. And I've received multiple calls from folks about grass at some of our parks and on the roadways and right-of-ways. Well, as you know, as we try to dispatch our crews out, we have to monitor the weather and make sure that we're not sending them out on all the days that it's raining, or we simply have to wait. We get out there and cut, next thing you know, 2 weeks or a week later, it's back up again. That's moving throughout the entire county. And you have to have people, personnel, to get out there and perform the work. So it is several factors included. We're monitoring it, but I will tell you that we've already hosted 2 days of budget appropriations and allocations, and only 2 people showed up. So that's the time that's dedicated to respond to the question of show me the money, where the money is going, and why we're spending what we're spending. It's an open door forum for citizens to come out and witness and listen to, but we only had 2 people to show up. I think I have all of the, as a point of order, as a presiding officer, I want to make sure that no one is speaking out of turn from the gallery. At this time, I'm going to close out and call this meeting to adjourn as we prepare to transition into our regular meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we will adjourn this one and start our work session and voting session.
Very good. Thank you so much. All right. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Tuesday, August the 22nd, and it is shortly before the 11 o'clock hour. We're here at 901 Main Street in the heart of Old Town Conyers, and we're calling our meeting to order. As we prepare and call our meeting to order, I want to call up our very good friend, Pastor Michael Patterson from the Faith Tabernacle Church. Pastor Patterson, come on up. He's going to lead us in our invocation and pledge of allegiance. Good to see you this morning, Pastor.
Good to see you too as well, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to come before this assembly, and I would like to lead us in a word of prayer at this time. If you would bow your heads with me. Mighty God, we love you and we praise your name. Thank you for all that you've done and all that you're continuing to do. God, you're so great and greatly to be praised, and we thank you for this opportunity that you've given us to serve this community, our county, and all of the citizens in it. Lord, I pray for our chairmen and commissioners, for the various levels of county officials, and in particular for this assembly today. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom, that they may govern well amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times. Grant them a sense of the welfare and the true needs of our community, and a sincere desire for justice and to do what is right. I also pray for confidence as they seek to do what is good and proper, to do everything decently and in order, and the ability to work together in harmony, even in the times of honest disagreement. Lord, I pray that you would grant them personal peace in their lives and fulfillment in their task. And Lord, I pray as our leaders seek to do what is in the best interest of all of our communities, that they do accept the responsibilities of their leadership, and that our citizens will understand that honest and genuine explanations are not excuses, but a desire to serve the best of their ability. Lord, I pray that you would lead us all into a spirit of unity that will bring us closer together instead of dividing us further apart. You, O God, are the author and the finisher of our faith, and our faith is not solely in people, but our faith is truly in you, O God. And Lord, today, as we close out this invocation, I pray for our servicemen and women in every field of labor. We ask for your blessing of protection to be upon each of them as they serve our nation, our state, our communities, to provide a freedom we all love, honor, and respect. And Lord, I pray for the agenda that is set before the commission today. Please give an assurance that what is proposed here today is for the best interest and for the benefit of those who live and work and play in our beloved community, in our county. We pray all of this in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
You would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Say thank you to Pastor Patterson from the Faith Tabernacle Baptist Church. They do United Pentecostal Church, should I say, Faith Tabernacle out on Raft Road in the Southern District of Rockdale County. I tell you, Faith Tabernacle does a fantastic job servicing the folks in our Southern District of Rockdale County. We always appreciate it when Pastor Patterson comes and support us with invocation and leading us in a word of prayer. So thank you to him and to the pastor and to his congregation and all the work that they're doing. This morning we don't have any special recognitions or presentations. At this time, commissioners, we're going to move on to item number 4, the approval of the agenda. What is your pleasure?
I move to approve.
I have an addition to the agenda that I'd like to place on the agenda. So I've never done this before.
What would you like to add?
So I would like to authorize the approval of the funding of the amount of $55,000 to go to CRETSI for the purpose of the preparation of a community improvement district study, phase 1, to be presented to the Board of Commissioners upon completion.
Okay, so what I would propose that you do this morning is add that as an item to the end of your agenda. So maybe the motion would be to amend the agenda to add item 417, which would be the addition of the, would that be a study?
Okay,
Study? And then
Yes.
when you get down to it, vote on the item.
okay.
Does that make
that's fine.
sense?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
we want to vote down
to amend
what-
the agenda to
Okay.
include item 417, and then when we get down to 417, the board will vote on the actual item.
Okay, so
Okay,
so I move to,
approve the agenda
Approve
as
the-
amended to include item 417.
yes, I move to approve the agenda as amended and approve item 417, which is
A
do I need-
study,
A study for a community improvement district.
correct. And so.
I second the motion.
It has been properly motioned and second that we will add item
Item
number
417
417 to the agenda at the end of this presentation. Thank you so much, Commissioner. It has been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, very good. Now we're going back to item number 4 for the approval of the agenda. Commissioners, what is your pleasure?
So, Mr. Chairman, the approval of the agenda included what we just did with the
We
amendment
took
of the
them all.
agenda. That's correct.
Oh, suck it now.
Absolutely.
All right,
I
okay.
know. One fell swoop, right?
All right.
So now we're on to item number 5.
All right, moving on. Thank you so much,
welcome.
Madam Clerk. Moving on to item number 5, the approval of the minutes from August 1st, 2023 and August 8th, 2023, also August 9th of 2023. Commissioners,
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
I second the motion.
it has been properly motioned and second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, next item, unfinished business. There's no unfinished business. No consent agenda, which is item number 7. We're moving right on to the regular agenda.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 389 is with E.R. Snell Contractor Incorporated through the Transportation Department. This is for the Sigmund Road widening Phase 2, and it's a change order number 5 to contract 2021-35. It's a 6-month extension only, and this is SPLOST funded.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I second that motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 390 is with 6 various engineering firms for the Transportation Department. It's the 2023 on-call consulting engineering services for RDOT. This is to establish a qualified list of firms. The term is 3 years with option to renew 2 additional 1-year periods. The firms are ACOM Technical Services, Atkins North America, Atlas Technical Consultants, CDM Smith, Michael Baker International, and Volkart Incorporated.
I move to approve these 6 contracts as listed.
I second the motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions?
I do have a question. So how did we come up with the 6 that are listed here? Was that the only, did we ask for 6? And the third part of that question is, do we have any considerations for minority contractors? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
No,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Speak up and speak into the mic. Yes, sir.
morning, Chairman.
Rocking and rolling.
Yes, we definitely did consider several vendors. We actually had 30 plus submit. We went through all of their qualifications. We started out with their GDOT qualifications as well, make sure they met all of the environmental, air, engineering, archaeology. There's a whole list. And those that did meet moved to the second part of the procurement process, and then they were all ranked and rated. And these are the top 6 that came out of those rankings.
so we only needed 6?
No, we have options. The minimum is 3.
Okay.
We thought that this expertise with these 6 gave us enough to cover everything we need.
Okay, and the third part of my question was minority contractors. Did we have any provisions for minority contractors?
Those were considered as well.
Are
So,
any of these minority contractors?
no, not in this list.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Director.
So, Mr. Chairman, we had a motion and a second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
But please put my no for the record.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Washington is voting nay. Is that correct, Commissioner?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Next item, please.
Item 391 is with Valley Hospitality Marriott for the Board of Commissioners Office. This is for the conference space for the fall BOC retreat. The amount is $2,250. The term is October 17th, 2023 through October 19th, 2023.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I second the motion.
Been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 292 is with Culloden Family Limited Partnership through the General Services Department. This is for the Public Defender's Office lease. It's contract change order number 2 to contract 2020-104. This is to change the lease term to 2 years to allow for new judicial complex to be built. The current cost is $60,050.56 per year. This is an option to renew an additional 1-year term.
I move to approve this contract as presented.
I second the
And
motion.
has been properly motioned and second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 393 is with Optera Solutions Incorporated through the Stormwater Management Department. This is for pond maintenance. It's an amount not to exceed $500,000 per year. It's a 1 year with option to renew 2 additional 1-year periods term.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions?
Yes, I'd like to know what pond maintenance we're talking about.
Absolutely. Director Simpkins, good morning.
I'm so glad you asked that question. As I sat back in that control room earlier and listened to some of the comments, I'm definitely glad I was able to get up this morning and speak to you. I had listened to a lot of the concerns earlier, and I definitely can understand the citizens' frustrations. But I want to speak to a couple of things, including pond maintenance. Well, let me answer the question first. Detention facilities are facilities that directly impact water quality of basins in our county. This is where you have stormwater runoff that will collect in a basin. It slows this water down. The water has an opportunity to have pollutants, sediment, other things that are harmful to the environment drop out into that one location before the water is then released into our local neighborhoods, creeks, streams, and rivers. These ponds are very important to our community. And unfortunately, over the past number of years, a lot of them have gone without maintenance. You have trees growing up in them. You have sediment deposited, trash, things that directly affect the operation of them, and they do not work. This contract is going to allow us to first address a lot of the county detention facilities that are county-owned that we have. Because how can we talk to citizens and about their ponds if we don't have our own house in order? So we're getting our own house in order first by getting our ponds in tip-top shape so that they function properly. Now, the one thing about this is if you look at that dollar amount, pond maintenance is not cheap. Stormwater infrastructure is not cheap. It takes funding to do this type of work. I've heard horror stories in Rockdale where, you had county officials, before the fee was on the property tax bill, you would have people saying, don't worry about paying that stormwater utility fee. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. It was a voluntary thing. And people wonder why the pipes are falling apart. You got sinkholes in your yard, sinkholes along the roadways that just sitting there for years. It takes some money to address these issues.
So, Director, I want to say thank you for, first of all, responding to the Commissioner's question. I also appreciate the point of privilege you take to educate us, and you're going to have more of that time coming forward. I'm going to ask that you would yield at this point, and I appreciate your passion. Thank you so much.
One question, I have a question. How many ponds do we have?
County ponds, just use
County ponds. We have over 30 county ponds, and those are just the ones that we know about.
And the answer is 30.
The answer is 30.
All right. Thank you so much. All righty. Okay.
You close that one out.
Reel me back in there, Executive Director.
All right,
Reel me
we're
back
on-
in.
That was good, though. We're on to item 394.
All right.
All right, so item 394 is with Comcast Business through Technology Services Department. This is for the
Oh, wait a minute, we
temporary-
didn't vote on, we
Yes,
didn't,
we actually finished that one.
We did?
We did
I
not
thought
vote
it
on
was-
that
I
one.
thought I asked the question when you
That's
said
okay.
discussion.
We'll take a point of
Well, you
privilege.
can
We'll
do
go
it
back.
again if you
It has
would
been
like.
properly motioned on item number 393. It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion
All right.
carries. We'll go to the next item.
Excellent. Okay, item 394 is with Comcast Business through Technology Services Department. This is for a temporary internet upgrade at Johnson Park for the NACA Home Buying Seminar. The amount is $550 per month additional. This is for 20 months and submitted for ratification.
Commissioner, what's your pleasure?
I move to ratify this contract as presented,
I second the motion.
but I do have questions.
It has been properly motioned and second. Questions and comments? Go right ahead.
So we're planning 20 months for a upgrade to Washington Park, Johnson Park for a home seminar that we only have for 3 days?
So, come on up, Director Moore Jackson from Technology Services. She's going to explain the long-term commitment. Good morning, Director.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the question, ma'am. That is the standard Comcast contract, and we could not do it just for the weekend. The contract, the minimum contract was for the time you see listed, and with that, we have requested that the contract be canceled, and we are in negotiations with them now on that.
So
Because
tell
the
me what that
hosting-
means. Are we paying $550 because we hosted it and we're getting ready to cancel the contract, or do we have to pay it for 20 months?
Ma'am, to host, yes, ma'am, to host the event, 1 gigabyte of speed was needed in order to host the event. The service is still being used by the facility during the interim, so it's not money just being wasted. However, the event is not going on every day, but the minimum that the contract could be listed for is the time period that you see listed. We could not enter into, it was not available. This is Comcast standard contract. We could not say we want to increase the gigabyte, the speed for just 1 weekend. That was not an option.
And Commissioner, let me just add to what the Director said. The benefit is this, and I heard what the Director said about being currently in negotiations. We're looking to bring, as you're aware, the NACA project back in the spring of next year. We had such an overwhelming turnout and support of people showing an interest. In fact, they were able to bless so many people. So whether they terminate the contract, as she mentioned about the negotiation, or whether it remains in place to some degree, or they modify it so that we will be ready to get back on board come the spring of next year, we won't have to start all the way from the bottom. As you know, this is the first time the NACA project has come to Rockdale County. Over 7,000 people turned out to that event. And I do agree that if Comcast believes in partnerships and relationships, that they're open to modifying the contract to work with Rockdale County. And I'm confident that the leadership of Director Moore Jackson can make that happen. I'm also confident that when we come back in the spring, we'll be ready to go without any hiccups and rock and roll with the NACA project again.
I understand that. I guess the other part of that is, have we asked NACA for any contributions since we have to incur this expense? Because it was a great project. But now we're asking for Rockdale County residents to pay for this great project that people from all over the country benefited from. And now we're solely bearing the expense. So I need to see if we've asked NACA for any money on the contract, and if not, in the springtime, we will ask them to help with offsetting some of this expense for the people, for our people.
And I definitely hear your concern. So, Director Moore Jackson, there's two concerns. I want to suggest that you continue forward in the direction that you're going with Comcast. And what I will do in our office, Commissioner Washington, because we brought in the lead project manager for the NACA project, we're in direct communication with them, and I think that's a valid request, and we can ask them. We certainly can do that. You're right. It did not just benefit the people that live in Rockdale County, but we made it much more accessible for our folks in this region, because typically for NACA, you have to drive westbound into Atlanta. So it was a great benefit for them. But I'm all about negotiation. I understand the art of sales, so we can certainly deal with NACA and find out whether or not they're able to work with us to offset some of this cost. In the meantime, Director Moore Jackson will be moving forward with Comcast and seeing what we can do there. Absolutely. Thank you, Director. Thank you. Good question, Commissioner. Very good question.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Executive Director. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 395 is with Cedric Roberts with Adult Resource Court Superior Court. This is for the part-time case manager in an amount not to exceed $16,191 per year. The term is through September 20th, 2024 with 3 12-month renewal options. This is a grant-funded expenditure.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 396 is a requisition through the Fire and Rescue Department. This is for Target Solutions Learning LLC, doing business as Vector Solutions. This is Vector Scheduling, the annual maintenance fee and scheduling software renewal. The amount is $15,622.34.
I move to approve this requisition as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 397 is a requisition through the General Services Department for Hazley Recreation Incorporated. This is for the new playground equipment and installation at Wheeler Park South, plus the amenities of grills, benches, picnic tables, trash bins. The amount is $145,233.23, and this is funded by impact fees.
I move to approve the requisition as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? Well, I have one because Parker Road is where I walk in the mornings, and the early part of the spring of this year, I did have a grandmother who was out with 3 kids, and she cornered me on the track, and she said, when are you going to upgrade this playground equipment? So to know that this was supported by impact fees and the playground equipment is coming, it makes a big difference. To the point that the director was making earlier, there is a cost associated with everything we do to upgrade and improve the services within the county. We have replaced, and our Director Redmond, you can bring this to me at a later date, but we have certainly replaced all throughout the county 3 areas that was truly neglected. Number 1 was Wheeler Park. Number 2, Shady Grove, if you're familiar with Shady Grove Park over by Shady Grove Church, and the old Millstead community on Gulf Street, because people felt as if they were neglected in that community. But we have already upgraded all of those areas in terms of parks and recreation. I want to say hats off to both Parks and Recreation and our General Services Department, who work in concert to make sure that we bring latest, greatest, updated equipment. Kids cannot play on equipment that's filled with lead from the 70s. If you got a child or a grandchild, you know good and well, last thing they do is they get a big snare, tell you to run to the emergency room and get a tetanus shot, because that old equipment is outdated and obsolete and is filled with lead. We replaced all of those playground equipment throughout the county. So that's good news. So this is good news to hear that. Next item, please.
Item 398 is a requisition through the Water Resources Department for Woolpert. This is to perform the smoke testing of approximately 185,000 linear feet within the Quig Branch Basin. The amount is $83,250.
I move to approve this requisition as presented.
I second the motion.
And I'm going to take this opportunity to educate, so you're going to have to bear with me. Director, come on up and tell us about this smoke testing and why this is necessary and required for us to do what we're trying to do. We've been talking about infrastructure and maintenance all morning. You've been listening to it. Tell us, educate us.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Madam Commissioner.
Good morning.
Smoke testing. Smoke testing is pretty much it's a method that we use to determine deficiencies in our sanitary sewer pipe. And what I mean by deficiencies, we have old infrastructure, you have cracks, in the old infrastructure, you have holes. So when you actually do the smoke testing, it will reveal those cracks and those holes for repair.
It shows the location.
Absolutely shows the location.
Very good. I appreciate you standing ready to educate us about what we're doing in terms of identifying the infrastructure and the problems and the deficiencies that we have. Thank you so much, Director.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So we had a motion and a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 399 is a requisition through the Transportation Department for Sunbelt Traffic LLC. This is change order number 2 to change order to contract 2023-02 for traffic signal maintenance for emergency repair at Smyrna and Klondike. The amount is $20,000, and this is submitted for ratification.
I move to ratify this requisition as presented.
I second that motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 400 is a requisition through the Stormwater Department for ProShot Concrete Incorporated to increase the funding to the original purchase order to rehabilitate and upgrade corrugated metal pipe. The original PO was $1,663,597. This is an increase of $537,250 to make the new total $2,200,847. And I see.
And Commissioners, before we go into this vote, and Director Simpkins, I know you feel with passion this morning, but I'm going to ask you to give us the Cape version as you try to educate us. Okay? Yes, sir. You came on fire this morning.
I'm
You ready?
calm. I'm calm, and I apologize if I offended anybody that heard that, but myself, along with all directors and county employees, we're very passionate about what we're doing. If we're doing this job, it's because we are service-oriented and we are passionate about it. I'm very empathetic, and I'm going to give you the cake version, Mr. Chairman, I promise, but we're very empathetic when we go out and we see citizens with these issues. I step into their shoes and I say, wow, would I want that sinkhole in my yard? And I know that I wouldn't. So we take courses of action because we know we would not want that in our yard, and so we're doing everything we can possible to address issues. But like I said, it is not an overnight. There's no overnight solution to it. But moving on to this contract is a reflection of the proactivity that we have taken during this administration. A lot of past administrations, you just want to go in, open cut a pipe, tear down a bunch of trees, remove fences, things, and deal with utilities to replace pipes. That is the old way. There are new technologies that we have embraced, one of which is shotcreting pipes, where it's a process of having a deteriorated pipe that still has its shape but is in bad condition. We're able to go in, reinforce these pipes with rebar or metal netting, and then we spray shotcrete into these pipes. What you end up doing is, instead of digging up a metal pipe and putting a metal pipe back, we're able to rehab these pipes to where they are now reinforced concrete pipes with 100-year lifespan. So once we use this process with these pipes, we'll never have to worry about them in our lifetime. We'll all be long gone by the time those pipes need to be rehabilitated again. So in a nutshell, as you can see...
Now stay in your lane now. I don't want you to go working for the funeral home.
Okay, no, I'm not. But as you can see with these numbers, we started off with an amount, and as we get out in the community and we see these issues, it just takes money. So we've had to do multiple increases, but we're working.
Director Simpkins, thank you so much, and I appreciate that, because even with the commissioners, oftentimes we need to have sometimes a little bit more than the surface understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing. I think there's an opportunity for us to come back at a later date and for you to bring some of the video and education that really puts it to life with graphics and video to be able to teach people and show people exactly what you were saying. You did a great job. I could see some of it as you were spelling it out and telling the story, but I think pictures are worth 1,000 words, and when people can see it on video, that it's a better understanding, because people do complain about the poor infrastructure, and they don't understand that it's been that way for a long time, and it takes project behind project. Thank you so much. We're going to move forward.
Yes, sir.
So you need a motion.
It's, so commissioners, what's your pleasure? Thank you.
I move to, is it me? I move to approve this requisition as presented.
I second the motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, next item, please.
Item 401 is a requisition through the General Services Department for CBA Sports. This is for the pickleball court installation, equipment, lighting, and fencing at Wheeler Park. The amount is $155,812.78. This is funded by impact fees.
I move to approve this requisition as presented.
I second that motion.
You was on that one. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about pickleball.
Yeah, I'm gonna call the director, but let me finish this out. It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Come
I
on
feel
up,
like
Director
we just-
Redmond. Come on up, because this has been, I tell you, over the last 90-plus days, ladies and gentlemen, we've received so many inquiries from citizens, young people all over the community about pickleball in Rockdale County. And one of the hottest buzz in terms of athletic activities. Director Redmond, you're the one that's running parks and recreation. Tell us about why is all the buzz with pickleball, and what is pickleball for some of the old schools who don't know what the clue we're talking about?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Madam Commissioners. Thank you for calling me.
I need your basketball court voice on that
got you,
microphone,
Chairman.
please.
Thank you for allowing me to come up and explain what the pickleball craze is all about. So yes, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America right now. We did have pickleball courts at Pine Log, and it's just so ironic that this morning I was actually reading a message on Facebook about someone asking me, when are you guys putting in pickleball courts? I've done presentations at previous board meetings outlining the plan that we had to include pickleball courts, and now the day is here that we're able to get the requisition before you all so we can get it approved. Pickleball is a sport very similar to tennis. It is a slower sport. It is played with a wiffle ball and wooden paddles, so the ball does not have as much speed on it, so it's more of a low impact sport, hence the growing and the growth of the sport. So it's not as big of impact on the joints, on the knees as tennis is. So it's very fun, very competitive for participants to play it.
And you've got a tournament that's coming up as well.
We have a
For those
tournament.
who don't know still, after your explanation, they can come and see it when and where.
September 9th, the tournament will start at 8 a.m. at Rockdale Tennis Center. It is in partnership with Mercy Heart and Parks and Recreation.
We are anticipating a large crowd on that particular day to come out. There's a lot of folks who are very interested in this sport, and there's a good number of folks who don't know what it's about. They're going to come out and see and witness why is pickleball so a big buzz in our community. Thank you, Director. All right, Commissioners.
So is the tournament not going to be, this won't be up and ready by the time the
No,
tournament?
this will not be built by then. This actual court will go on Wheeler Park South next to the National Fitness Campaign structure that we built. It will be very close to that structure, and we will outline that area of Wheeler Park with other amenities that we have planned.
And is there going to be a process in place? Like, are people going to have to reserve the court, and there's going to be a process in place?
Yes, this
for all
court
of that?
will mainly, just from public feedback, be used for a lot of tournament play. There are a lot of pickleball leagues now through USTA that has been established. They actually use the single court at Wheeler Park, because we have it lined for pickleball, to play some of their tournament games there. So this will provide a better place for them, and multiple courts in order for them to get more games in at a time.
Okay, thank you.
I like the economic development impact myself, because with them folks coming from other areas, they're going to spend some money in Rockdale County. Very good. All right, where we are.
So you closed that one out for sure. Okay, all right. Next time. Okay, item 402 is a requisition to the General Services Department for United Maintenance, supply, and install of 3 rooftop HVAC package units at the Rockdale County Jail. The amount is $122,095, and this is host funded.
I move to approve this requisition as presented.
I second the motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? And I have the Deputy Director of General Services up. Mr. Valano, how are you this morning?
Doing great.
Tell us about this HVAC system you replaced, you and the team over at the local jail.
Yes, Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. Thanks for calling on me.
Good morning.
Yes, there was three, we did a study on units that need to be replaced based on their age and life cycle. And these three were determined to be the best ones because they actually house the inmates. And we'd rather fix them now than later when they break down and there's lead times. So we order them now, we get them in place, and it's an easy change out. We have one crane. We can take care of them all really quick and get those back up and running. So.
Very good. That's pretty cut and dry there.
Yes.
Absolutely. We can take care of it now so we don't have a problem later. There's a liability issue there if you talk about the jail that houses the inmates. So very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so you had a motion and a second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 403 is a requisition through the General Services Department for United Signs for building monument sign upgrade at the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office. The amount is $38,895.80, and this is SPLOST funded.
I move to approve the requisition as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 404 is an expenditure request to the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, to the Water Resources Department. This is the annual drinking water fees for July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. The amount is $16,170.
I move to approve this expenditure as requested.
I second the motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 405 is an expenditure request for the DeKalb County Revenue and License Administration through the Water Resources Department. This is for sewage treatment for June 2023. The amount is $105,469.49.
I move to approve the expenditure request as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 406 is an expenditure request through CSI for the Technology Services Department. This is for magnet maintenance contract. The term is March 21st, 2023 through March 20th, 2024. This is for web hosting for March 20, same term, and the amount is $38,575.02. This is submitted for ratification.
I move to ratify this expenditure as requested.
I second the motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 407 is an expenditure request to the Court Makers Incorporated through the Parks and Recreation Department. This is for the tennis court resurfacing of courts 5, 6, 7, and 8. For the armoire crack repair. The amount is $25,440.
I move to approve this expenditure request as presented.
I second that motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions?
I just want to say that I appreciate Director Redmond, all of the maintenance that is going on with our tennis courts. I know several years ago I was probably a tennis advocate. I don't know anything about tennis except for Venus and Serena. But now I have no complaints about the tennis centers, and it seems as if we're putting a lot of effort into maintaining them, and I really appreciate not having those phone calls. And I also appreciate the aesthetics of the tennis courts, especially the ones at Pine Log.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I just wanted to put
Thank
that
you.
on the record.
I just wanted to make a point or just reinforce what you're saying. It took us a while, as the theme for today, things were not done previously, so we've made it a point to put every tennis court in the county on a rotation to be resurfaced, and they get resurfaced 4 at a time. If we neglect to resurface these courts to repair What you would have to do, the cracks would destroy the tennis court. You have to dig it all up. It costs $60,000 to replace one court, opposed to us getting 4 resurfaced for $25,000. So that's why we have them on rotation. So in the coming years, you will see 4 more and 4 more and 4 more. We try to keep them refreshed as possible.
Right. But
Thank you.
once again, thank you all for coming up with the system and doing it. So
Thank you.
So you had a motion and a second.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have a very robust tennis community here in Rockdale
Yes, we do.
County. A very vocal and active tennis community here, and they do not hold back letting us know if there's any issues out there. And I appreciate what the commissioner said, as well as I do remember Commissioner Washington championing the cause several years ago to make sure that all of our tennis courts throughout Rockdale County is resurfaced on a regular maintenance schedule, which the director has pointed out. Next item, please.
Item 408 is an expenditure request for Safe Built through the Planning and Development Department. This is for inspection and plan review services, the amount of $17,439.80.
I move to approve this expenditure request as presented.
I second the motion.
It has been properly motioned and second. Comments?
Yes, because I need to make sure that this is what I think it is. So tell me what it is.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Chairman, Madam Commissioners.
Yes,
Good morning.
We have a contract with Safe Built. They are our building officials and our building inspectors. So anytime we have any new construction going on in the county, they go out to do plan review. They actually review the documents, and then they actually go on site to actually ensure that the documents and the actual buildings being built to code and to our county standards.
So when we have a developer that comes out and they erect a development, Safe Built goes out and we're paying them
Yes, ma'am.
to go out and make sure that the buildings, each unit is built up to code.
Yes, ma'am.
And so if somebody has a problem with their home, they go back to Safe Built. How does that work if a year later after it settles or whatever, something happens and they're saying that it was faulty construction? How do we rectify that, since we have Safe Built doing this?
Well, bro, I'm confident to say that doesn't happen since we've been here, that we ensure that nothing gets built incorrectly. Safe Built, what I've been working with, they are very stringent and very particular about making sure that everything's built to code. We have no problem sending it back to the developer and saying, hey, this is not built correctly. We need to redo it again and again. Again, if there is an issue, again, that would be on the county for issuing a permit that's built incorrectly. However, we make it very plainly and clear that if anything's not built correctly, will not be issuing a certificate of occupancy to allow residents to move in.
So what you're saying that regardless of the developer, we have a system in place that monitors the quality of the home that's being built. And you just said that that we do not issue certificates of occupancies for these developments unless they meet a standard.
Yes, ma'am. My signature
all
is on
of
that.
the homes that we're building in the county.
Yes, ma'am. My signature is actually on this certificate of occupancy that says that they have met all codes, they met all inspections and so forth. We do not issue those until they have checked off all those boxes.
Thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Washington, for your line of questioning. And I want to bring a point of clarification. As the Deputy Director has pointed out, Safe Built is our contracted inspector who inspects on behalf of Rockdale County. Now, let me add this. A homeowner may have a problem with a developer in terms of the construction of their home. We are signing off on the code and the standard of building that particular structure. Now, if they didn't get your paint right, or they didn't line the door up, or whatever the case may be, you don't come to Rockdale County for that. You call your real estate agent, your builder, and you take that up with them. But in reference to code and industry standards, our inspectors are being dispatched to check and verify that they're being built to industry and code standard. Now, you ordered a different kind of chandelier or whatever the case may be, and they didn't give you all that, that's between you and the builder and your agent. But in terms of county code and standard, we want to make sure. And I really appreciate the commissioner bringing that to light, because oftentimes citizens really get confused. And let me say this, because this came up during this whole series of this budget millage rate. People bought homes that were already built, some of them, built in the 70s, 60s, the 80s, and the 90s here in Rockdale County. They bought an existing home. And some of those existing homes, as you've heard already, were built in subdivisions that were probably should not have been approved at that time.
Absolutely.
Time, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and 90s. We weren't here. They're discovering some problems today. Stormwater problems, water problems, infrastructure problems. We're doing what we can to address them and make right as many of them as we can. Now, think about the money that it would cost Rockdale County if we went into everybody's backyard, swimming pool, driveway for poor shabby work that was done in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Although approved by the county back then, we can't address every one of those issues because you purchased the home with the knowledge of knowing that this was in this condition. I've seen some homes in this county, commissioners, that I don't understand why someone would have made that purchase, the way they're positioned in some of these areas. And I wonder about the inspectors from way back then. I remember the conversations coming on board in 2009. Folks said, they proudly stated that there were some handshake deals. We can't do handshake deals. We can't do that. We have to make sure we inspect what we expect and verify this. Commissioner Washington, very good line of questioning. You had something to say, Commissioner? Okay. Deputy Director.
I also just want to be clear as well. As you stated, Chairman, we enforce the code. However, we do not enforce private covenants. So again, if there's a private covenant, there's HOAs, and there are certain agreements that the HOA has nothing to do with us. We just strictly go by the code.
Right. I just want to make sure that we have something in place to ensure people that when we are bringing developments, that we have something in place that ensures homeowners that we are setting a standard or making these developers adhere to standards, and that is the code. And of course, we can't get into chandeliers or paint colors or things like that, but as far as the structure and the soundness of their dwelling and their safety, that we are holding them accountable, and that's what we're playing this organization to do.
Yes, ma'am. No, I take it personally that they follow the code. I take it as also as disrespectful if they don't follow the code because they do not take my job serious, but I take my job extremely serious. So again, they have to follow on the code, the ordinance, everything that's set in stone by Rockdale County.
Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Director. One added layer is that there are commercial appraisals out there who will be glad to come and inspect any property that you so desire to buy before you purchase it. They'll go out and check it out and tell you whether or not you should purchase that particular home or not before you make the purchase. So let me just say that as well. So that's out there on the market. There's people that make money to go out and inspect a home before you buy it and make sure that it's in order before you make the purchase. So you have a lot of options. Next item, please.
So we have a motion and a second.
It's been properly motioned and second and discussed. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 409 is an expenditure request for Roberts Hauling and Pipeline through the Water Resources Department. This is for the relocation of water meters, and the amount is $29,800.
I move to approve this expenditure request as presented.
I second that motion.
Been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 410 is a request for surplus of equipment from Technology Services Department, the Sheriff's Office, Superior Court, and the Parks and Recreation Department.
I move to declare these items as surplus as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 411 is a resolution appointing Public Facility Authority members and establishing the initial terms of office.
I move to approve this resolution as presented.
I second that
It's
motion.
been properly motioned and second. Any comments or questions?
It's almost here.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 412 is a resolution to allow the county to reimburse itself with debt proceeds for any cost of the judicial and administrative complex prior to the issuance of the bonds.
I move to approve this resolution as presented.
I second the
Been
motion.
properly motioned and second. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 413 is a letter of authorization for signatures for Synovus Bank.
I move to approve the letter of authorization as presented.
I second that motion, but I do have a question.
We'll entertain your question now, Commissioner.
Okay. I noticed that the finance director's name is not on there. Is there a reason why it's not the finance director? I just was wondering.
Chief Sanders.
Yes, so this is a SPLOST account that the finance department is going to close. So that was something that deputy director was handling prior to our CFO coming on. So it still
Can we
needs to
add her
proceed.
to the, can we add her though?
So I could take the second part of that, if that's all right. So this particular letter is actually going to close out an account, and it's going to remove existing signatures that were on that account, that those previous people are not here anymore. What you'll see coming in September are what called a resolution for signature cards, and that's when the other signatures will be added, and it's like a process. So we'll make sure that they're added as well.
But this one says authorized signers to be added. So-
Right, and so by the time that this is done, that account will be closed. And so we're just gonna make sure that it's closed out.
Are you tracking?
I see
So
what
that-
you're saying. You want to have the new CFO on that account, but by the time this is already done, this meeting will be over and that account will be closed, if I'm understanding the,
So why are we adding any signatures?
so they can be the ones to close it out.
So why wouldn't she close it out?
Because we would have to have another meeting to add her to a signature card, which is a resolution that's done through the bank, and then we would have to do this piece. So we got to close out what's previously existing, and then go through the process of adding.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
All
Okay.
right, Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
All in favor?
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Right, item 414 is a proposed amendments to the Rockdale County Employee Pay and Classification Plan, and this is submitted through Talent Management. Deputy Director Red is here to go over the presentation.
Deputy Director Red, we don't get to see you that much. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Madam Commissioner.
Good morning.
All right, can you use your Friday night voice?
I can.
All right.
I can.
All right.
So the item that is proposed is the 2023 overall review and mid-year amendment to the Rockdale County Employee Pay and Classification Plan. The proposed amendment includes the addition of 11 general fund positions in the following departments: Finance, Magistrate Court, and Public Relations, as well as the implementation of the Community Services and Partnerships Department. The amendment also includes reclasses and updates to job descriptions and organizational charts for multiple departments.
All right. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I have some amendments that I'd like to make to this before voting on it. I don't know how to do that, but I'm not in a position where I want to vote on this.
So what you could do, if the board wants to consider that, you could move to amend what's in front of you, list out the amendments, or you could simply vote on it as it's presented.
Commissioner Williams, what's your pleasure?
I would like to vote on it as it is, but I would like to have some explanation and give some explanations and justification for some of these
And
positions.
I'm confident that Deputy Director Red is prepared to give some explanation. And Commissioners, would you like to take that opportunity now to hear from the Deputy Director, or would you like to proceed with the vote at this point and go to the questioning? It's your pleasure.
Or the motion. If you move to have it on, and then you can have your discussion after you have your motion.
Okay.
Either way.
So I move to approve these amendments as presented.
I second that motion. It has been properly motioned and second. Now we're going to pause for question and comments, and I'm going to turn the floor to Deputy Director Red at this time.
So of the 11 positions, 6 of them are new positions under the Community Services and Partnerships, also known as CSP. That is a director for the Community Service and Partnerships, deputy director, a grant writer. The grant divisions will now be moving from under finance to CSP. We also have the DEI officer, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as the housing program coordinator, coordinates the community housing programs. So that's the 6 positions. For finance, we have 3 additional positions, new positions, the contract specialist, and they will assist with procurement contract processes. The budget analyst will assist with continuous budget monitoring and annual preparation. And the EBO officer, short for Equitable Business Opportunities. And the magistrate court will have 1 new position, the associate magistrate court judge, a full-time position to assist with caseload. And public relations has 1 new position, and that's web and digital content specialist, and they will work to upkeep the county website.
So, the public relations position, we have been contracting that out, is that right? We've had consultants that have been doing that? Yes, and so I think in most cases, it's less expenditure on the county to have an employee doing that than it is to contract out. Okay, so we know that Judge 10 has needed an assistant associate magistrate court judge for some time, and that's one of the positions. Looking at the new department, the Community Services and Partnership Department, I think the key thing, there's several key things with that department. One is a grant writer, which we've had grant managers and some other things, but this is a new position. And placing it there means that for all those social service kinds of entities that we have within our county, they will be situated with the people dealing with all of that. So it makes sense to move that grant department, to me, it makes sense, over there. The housing program coordinator is probably one of the most important, because we have lost out. Last year, we did not have the personnel to complete grant applications to HUD. We don't have the personnel this year to complete those applications for the for DCA, for the Department of Community Affairs, who draws down the funding from HUD. And so we have lost funding that would actually assist people in purchasing homes, in making repairs to their homes, because we just didn't have anybody in that position. That housing program coordinator, as well as doing that kind of work, will also be able to work on transitional housing and emergency shelter housing and some of those critical needs that we know we have in the county.
Commissioner, let me just add to the point that you're making, because what happens, our office receives several calls either from family members or local pastors regarding seniors who are on a fixed income. We've gone and seen roofs on top of the houses collapse, floors, kitchen floors gone, outdated electrical systems, poor plumbing, and a lot of the homes where these seniors just don't have the money to handle these repairs. Having the grant writer, having this dedicated housing individual who can work with all of the grant funds that are coming across the country to address housing, which we're in a housing crisis, and to deal with the homelessness issue. As the housing crisis increases, so does homelessness. When you're talking about a senior who only gets Social Security or SSI, $1,200, $1,400 a month, they can't fix a roof. They can't repair a plumbing issue in a bathroom or a kitchen or a floor in an old home that has deteriorated. This will allow us to track, monitor, and it'll put us in a better position when we respond to so many of the clergy members who are calling. We got a house now that's out on 212 in the Southern District of Rockdale County, and we're going to address this situation very similar to the Habitat for Humanity, where there's a collage of local craftsmen and tradesmen that's going to go out there and assist with this home. So we need this because we have a demographic in our community that are just left and lost without any help and resources. And it really pains me when the pastor calls and say, Chairman, is there any resources out there? Mm-hmm. And I don't have any way to point them into any direction. So this is going to help us. I don't want to prolong it, but I'm really pointing this out, and I'm so glad to hear the support coming from you, because we've been trying to figure out where does this belong, and all of these unique situations that we get on the community services and partnership, they don't have a category in county government. These are our residents. We got to help these people. We got to.
And there's grant funding out there for to deal with a lot of this. And so we just need people dedicated to the issues and the funding for it. I've had several people just in the last few weeks that have contacted me about, I have 3 children and I have no place to live, and where do I send them? And so to have somebody in charge of that would be really good.
And let me just add one other thing. Some of these people are working folks too. Let me get that out. Some of these people go to work every day. Yeah. I don't want to give the wrong impression, because working people struggle as well, because these people are living paycheck to paycheck and they're having some issues and they need help. So I want to make sure, because sometimes people think that when folks are asking for help, well, they need to go get a job. Well, these people are working.
Right.
They work every day. They're trying to raise their families and doing the best they can to make ends meet, and they're living from paycheck to paycheck. So let's be clear about some of the need that's out here in the community. And this won't be a catch-all. We won't be able to put on a cape and save everybody in Rockdale County. It's not a catch-all. But what we'll be able to do is establish a criteria that we can begin to track and monitor and try to make sure people don't fall into the cracks of the system and find themselves either in a housing crisis or completely homeless out there in the community.
The other key thing that will happen in this department is there will be increased coordination between the court system, the jail, the Stepping Up initiative, and all of those supports for people in the accountability courts, for people who are in recovery. It will all be located in one place. Right now we have people across the street, we have people at the jail, we have people over at the, some people here at the BOC office, we have some people over at the lab, the accountability court lab. To bring those activities and that coordination together was identified as a gap when we received a funding from NACO a grant-funded strategic planning process funded by NACO, and that was just a huge gap. And it was amazing as we sat around the table, and there was probably 30 or 40 people there from the county, and someone would say, well, we're doing that. And we, really? I didn't know that. And so there's, even though we've tried to coordinate everything, there are still some silos. And this will help to eliminate some of those silos.
All right. Any additional comments?
One of my big comments is we're adding these positions. We're adding an entirely new division and a new department to this administration, which means it's paid for by the people, and it's another reason why our millage rate is where it is. If you all are fine with that, and I agree with several of these positions. What I don't agree with is that so that we can have these positions, we are funding these, but we've cut positions that other elected officials have said that they needed. And my position is, number one, those people stood for office the same way we did. And if they're saying that this is what they need to do to be held accountable to the people and to run their departments, why would we create an entire department for our initiatives, but not give them the things that they need for theirs? That's my number one thing. And I really would like for us to go back and look at these positions and see if there's any way that we could offset some of these now so that we can give them what they need, so and look at doing something later to bring these. For example, a director and a deputy director, do we need them both now? The contract specialist, do we need that now? I know we need a budget analyst because of where our budget is. The DEI officer, do we need that right now? Absolutely, we do need the grant writer and the housing program coordinator. When we first started with the housing initiative, Judge Bill said that housing and finding housing for people in transition, that's one of the number one problems in this county. So we definitely need somebody to do that. Associate magistrate court judge, absolutely we need that because our judge Attend Kent, she's over there like Superwoman. The courts are, they're scheduling for March now. This is August. They're scheduling into March because it's just her with part-time judges, and it's taking 6 to 9 months to get people evicted from houses. So that means that people aren't paying rent and they're just sitting there squandering because she can't get the work done. So we absolutely need that. The web and digital content specialist, I understand that we are paying that, outsourcing it. It might be less expensive. That's something we could talk about. But I just really don't know if today, right now, we've done enough analysis to add all of these positions, but say that the other elected officials that have asked for positions, what they have prioritized is not important to them or the people of this county. And those are the things that I would like to further converse about before we vote on it.
The next resolution is for the appointment and employment of additional district attorneys that our district attorney has asked for.
Right, but we don't have, the tax commissioner has had 2 people, and I'm not sure if these are
but some of those they made those in their budget presentations for 2024.
Right, but we took from what I understand with the tax commissioner, we took 2 jobs from her, and she's just asking us to replace them now, and she's getting ready to be in tax collections before the next budget starts. So she needs the people before we would fund those. If we're going to do a mid-year review, it seems like we would put those people back in the budget before we start a entirely new department. Those are the things that I would like to think about before we start an entirely new department with taxpayer money. That's where I am. Not that I don't support where we're going, because we absolutely need places and resources for our people, and we have left so much money on the table not having a facility to write grants, administer grants, things like that, not just for community development, but economic development also. We're leaving so much money, so we definitely need something. I just would like for us to think about how we're doing it, where we're doing it, and take the other elected officials' needs into consideration completely when we're doing it.
So, Commissioner Washington, if I might, I just want to make sure that I completely understand what you're saying. So if we were to come back with the plan for 2024 that included the other elected officials, would you have issue with these items that are in front of you today? Because there's a lot on here. There's the new department. There's the reclasses, which take up the majority, and like the kind of what you would call maybe housekeeping for the pay and class plan. There's a lot of that on here. Mm-hmm. Also, there are positions within the enterprise departments, which would be water and stormwater, which is obviously separate than the general fund. But I want to make sure that I'm clear on what your requests are prior to the vote, because I know we're still in discussion mode right here, so we can help figure out.
So if we took a couple positions away from the tax commissioner, what does it mean? What do we have to do to get those back for her?
I think you would, I'm sorry, I would think you would just need to reconsider the elected officials at an upcoming meeting. This seems to be what's under the purview of the Board of Commissioners, with the exception of the magistrate.
Right.
Is that correct?
And the district attorney.
Let me, first of all, I want to say Commissioner Washington has certainly pointed out some valid concerns. Yes. And we want to make sure that we pump the brakes and hear what the commissioner is bringing forward. And I want to do this in the most orderly and decent way. Okay. And I'm going to start this way. Commissioner Williams, what is your pleasure this morning as relate to the items that are at hand?
So, because there's so much more on this classification and pay plan than just those positions, but we also need to address what the elected officials need and which ones are critical for now. I liked Director Rutledge's suggestion that we approve this today and come back with the elected officials. Excuse me.
I'll take care of it. Let me say this, ladies and gentlemen. As a point of order, I want to yield to the commissioner respectfully. Let her continue to articulate what she's saying. I'm going to process what she's saying, and we're going to look at all of the options that we have. No decision hasn't been made yet. It is disrespectful and out of order. And any of you all that's been in a leadership position, you have to agree. Commissioner Williams.
Let me get my thoughts back together. Okay, so I agreed with Director Rutledge's position that if we approve this plan today, and I would be favorable to saying, okay, let's hold off on a deputy director, maybe, and I don't know what that means in terms of this plan, but come back to the elected officials at our next meeting and address those. Besides the two that we are addressing would be addressed today. If we don't approve this today, our magistrate court is still going to be 6 months behind.
Right. So I hear you clearly. I want to clean it up, and I want to present the options that some of you may not even know that exist. I'm going to talk about the options here in just a moment. I think there's a win-win opportunity for everybody involved and an opportunity to address, to really take a hard look at what the commission is bringing forward. What is at hand is a proposal and a presentation. What's still lies before us is the need to make sure that all of the elected officials in Rockdale County have an opportunity to have their voices heard in terms of their needs within their individual departments. As the Board of Commissioners, it is incumbent upon us to hear from them and to be able to address those needs and concerns that each and every one of those elected officials have in terms of their service level of delivery. We're still in our budget process. That's the beauty of all of this. The budget process has not ended and it has not closed out. For the matter at hand, so that we don't stifle progress, I'm calling for a vote, and I'm calling for our Department of Finance to bring back, get with Chief Sanders. I want to make sure you hear me clearly. Let's expedite finding the date, identifying the date, and afford an opportunity for every single elected official. That includes, she pointed out, the tax commissioner. We need to hear from them so we can make sure that there's no one falling between the cracks and there's no gaps where there's a need in this county to deliver services. I don't want to put on hold progress. We put on hold progress in Rockdale County long enough. We have a matter before us. We're still in our budget season, so there's still plenty of options and alternatives to make sure that each and every elected official is heard. I'm going to call for the vote. What is your pleasure, Commissioner Williams?
Did we already?
So you had a motion and a second.
Have a motion and a
That's
second.
what's on the floor right now.
And we've had plenty of discussion.
Could you repeat the motion?
Sure. So the motion was by Commissioner Williams, and it was seconded by the chairman to approve the amendments as presented, which is what you've got in front of you right now.
And I've added, as we prepare to take this vote, I've said to our CFO and our financial director and Chief Sanders to expedite a date so that we can hear from the tax commissioner and all of those other elected officials that have reached out to Commissioner Washington so that we can give them an opportunity to clearly allow their voice to be heard, to advocate and to champion the calls for the needs in their various offices. It's only fair that we do it.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll put your statement into the record.
Thank you so much.
But I need to be clear.
Okay.
I'm not trying to hold back progress by any means. I understand that we need things for people in the community. What I am trying to do is make sure that we balance the needs economically. What do we need right now for this year? And what can we hold off from this to next year so that we can get what is needed now for the same amount of money or less than something that we can figure out how to budget for next year. I don't want my no vote on this to be construed as me not being in favor of all of this. I'm not in of some of this. I'm not in favor of all of this, and I need for you all to understand.
And it's well received and taken, Commissioner. I think you are championing a very good cause. You've advocated on behalf of those elected officials. I also think you've created a platform for options. We're going to entertain those options as I've already instructed staff to expedite our effort to get this done. So I think you've done a great, you've carved out an opportunity. This one is what you've actually done. And I think that by doing it and making sure that we follow suit with this in the most expeditious type way that we can, we're going to be able to create a win-win situation for all parties. It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman, but Commissioner, what was your vote?
No.
No, okay.
Let the record reflect Commissioner Washington is voting no. And let me also add, because she pointed out, her no vote does not mean that she's not in favor of progress. Her no vote is coupled with her opportunity to champion the cause and advocate for those other elected officials who've reached out to her. And we are going to address that. Absolutely.
All right.
All right, next
Ready
item,
for the
please.
next item? All right, item 415 is a resolution allowing for the appointment and employment of additional assistant district attorneys for Rockdale County, Georgia, and for the Rockdale Judicial Circuit by the elected Rockdale County District Attorney.
I move to approve this resolution as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item, please.
All right. Item 416 is an adoption of the model findings resolution and local amendment to plumbing code for water efficiency submission of proposed amendment to the DCA. This is a draft transmittal from the Water Resources Department.
I move to approve the draft transmittal resolution as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All
All
right.
right, Mr. Chairman, that brings us to our last item, which is item 2023-417. This item was amended to the agenda earlier today, and Commissioner Washington, I might need a little bit of assistance, but it was for a request for $55,000 to CREDC from the Board of Commissioners to do a study.
Is for preparation of a community improvement district for phase one, authorization to approve funding in the amount of $55,000 to CREDC for the purpose of preparation of phase one of a community improvement district study.
All right.
Study.
Okay.
So my understanding is that this study will allow, first off, the person who does the study to evaluate the businesses to determine, first off, if the businesses are interested in a community development.
Right. So to do a study to look at all of the things that are needed to do a community improvement district. Look at our millage rate, which is, that might be something that would keep us from doing it. To do the surveys to see if it's something feasible, to do an analysis of the different parcels of land, to do listening sessions to see what the people that have businesses in the proposed area want to do, to spearhead all of that. And then she will come back and report to us the findings, and from that we will go to phase two or not. If it's not feasible, then we can say, well, if this isn't feasible, we don't want it, or we're not going to move forward with the second phase. But at least this will give us all of the data and all of the analysis that we would need to see if this is something that would improve the businesses and the community in that particular area.
Okay, so I know where there are CIDs, and I know how they work. Tell me what the advantage would be to having one.
Oh my goodness! So all of the so CID can be leveraged for different community aesthetics. It can be used for helping with transportation, beautification, that's still aesthetics, but say that there's a need for a community center there, then this gives leverage for putting another community center there. The funds for the CID can be leveraged because it would be an organization. So that organization itself can apply for federal funds or state funding for itself, for just that district. It can have increased code enforcement. It can have increased it could offer to pay for a sheriff's deputy or sheriff's deputies just for that region. Fire can they can have input into fire safety just for whatever the CID. So the benefits of having a CID are tremendous, and we see them all over the state, and people can definitely see the difference in places that have invested in themselves.
I just like to add, I too am very familiar with the CIDs. There are a few across our region, and of course the most popular one is in the Cobb County area. The demographic and the median household income in that area is a great difference in terms of Rockdale County, as is in many other areas. When I think about the CID and the idea of doing a study, over 30 years ago, the conversation about the overlay district on Salem Road came up. Nothing came of that because the buy-in and the support from the businesses along that corridor just did not support it. Well, in this season that we're in, we're talking about economic development, and we're also talking about money management. We have the Conyers-Rockdale Economic Development Council. And they have an executive director. I believe that it is incumbent upon the executive director to use all of his resources to poll and survey the citizens as well as the local businesses in our community, both small businesses as well as big box businesses in our community. We can start there internally with our own Conyers-Rockdale Economic Development Council and the leadership that's over there and allow him to spearhead this effort versus spending another $55,000. I just want to finish and I'm going to yield to you in a minute, Commissioner. Versus spending another $55,000 when we have someone that's already on board who has been tasked with building those relationships with our local businesses and checking the pulse of the community to determine whether or not there's going to be any kind of buy-in. I like to do that for free versus paying somebody $50,000 to go around and check the people's pulse. We can call and ask all of our local small business people to come to one centralized location and have a focused town hall meeting with just them and receive feedback from them. They can tell us whether or not they'd be interested in an overlay district or a CID. I think the CID has its rightful place at its rightful time. We're in the midst of doing a comprehensive study right now for Rockdale County, all the way around. We're also doing the Reimagine Rockdale to add one other thing, one other layer on it, and we have an entity, Conyers-Rockdale Economic Development Council, that's already tasked to do that. I think it's a waste.
So, are you done?
I'm done.
So, the Conyers-Rockdale Economic Development Council has more economic development opportunities right now than has had in the last 6 years. He is on fire. We have things that we're to the point where there has been propositions that we have tried to discourage from coming to Rockdale County. He is moving. Not only that, we do have a work plan for him that does not include the going to the individuals for a CID. The person that we have tasked to lead the CID project is somebody who has done this all over the state of Georgia and beyond, and that's what she does for a living, is champion CID. She's done Cumberland, she's done Savannah, she's done all over the state of Georgia, and she has a process in place that doesn't just call for getting people together in a room and asking questions. It's doing a complete analysis of not just do you want a CID and this is what it will do for you, but asking questions. There's an entire process. So we're not just asking for her to have a meeting for $55,000. We're asking for her to do due diligence for $55,000. So that's what we're asking.
And in that analysis is also the impact of the tax revenues.
The impacts, all of those things. Yes.
Because okay. And then I would imagine there's some projections on a CID increasing their businesses,
Absolutely.
the businesses amount,
And what kind,
which increases revenue to offset
right,
the
and
CID amount.
Exactly, and how we do incorporate something. So let me tell you, that Salem Road corridor is one of the most progressive planning pieces that we have, and the vision behind it is beautiful. It is it would be a tremendous corridor, and I was at an economic development conference recently, and they said that we need to stop saying quality of life, but quality of place. What does the quality of the place that you're in, what determines it, and do you have a quality place? That overlay district was creating a quality place. Now we have to put the boats and nail down what it's going to take to effectuate that quality of place. Because right now on the Salem Road corridor is not there, but the potential with the overlay district is there. So we need to figure it out, and we can't figure it. That's not in our will set. So you hire somebody that is in their will set to do the analysis, to do everything. And if it comes back that these people are saying now after all of these years they still don't want anything over there, which I don't believe that's going to be based on my limited engagement with the people over there. I don't think that's going to be the case. Then we don't move forward. But at least we have a system that we've set up that's not just bringing people in the room and asking them to raise their hand if they want to tax themselves. It's a entire system of this is what, this is how, this is what, this is all the things you can do with. This is it's bigger than just a meeting and a town hall asking if this is what you want to do with some more money. So it's bigger than that. It's more comprehensive. It takes at least 4 months to get to the place where she can come back and say, these are all the things, this is the analysis, and then go to the next phase if it's favorable. It's not just one, she's not doing a meeting for $55,000. It's an entire survey of the landscape to give us something more progressive. By the way, it is Salem Road, and I've already talked to Newton County, and they are interested in entertaining bringing that corridor all the way down. So it wouldn't just be Rockdale, it would be something big for that entire corridor. So we would have a very positive sense of place, but we have to put a little bit of revenue in it in order to make it happen.
Well, Commissioner, you are certainly passionate about it, and you champion a very strong cause about having the CID survey done. $55,000 is not a lot of money. However, I'm going to lean back over to the fact that the Georgia Department of Transportation has a plan to do a complete overhaul on Highway State Route 162, which is Salem Road. And the businesses along that district have been waiting and waiting for years for them to get that project off the ground. It's my belief that once the Georgia Department of Transportation does the complete overhaul from I-20 in Rockdale into Newton County, that is going to lift the excitement for all of the businesses along that corridor to want to participate once that project is completed. They're already making, just give me a moment, they're already making some progress because they started 2 weeks ago with some preliminary setbacks and movement of signs and infrastructure that's out there. The last word that I have is that they're going to start this project finally in the month of November, which is not too far away. I believe that once that project is complete with the road construction, it's going to shed a light, a positive light, on the Salem Road corridor, and really would encourage those businesses to consider what you're talking about. So I'm pointing out that we have options and there are some opportunities, but this is going to be a clear vote between this board and you all determine what you want to do.
So let me address that. Part of the benefit of a community improvement district is that you take the leverage from the Department of Transportation and all the things that they're doing, and you leverage that with the whatever funds that you get, and you get better. So you create better than what is presented. You think of the next level. What would make this better than this? We can have better. So that's one of the big benefits of a community improvement district. You using your funds and other resources to level and next level.
This is always good because this is good, healthy, and robust conversation from the three members of the board that represent. This is what we have to have. So this is what it's all about. I think we've heard a good bit, should I say. Commissioner Williams, any other comments you'd like to add? And then
No,
we're
I
going to
don't
call for the
have
vote.
any other comments.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Washington, I think it's only appropriate that you make the motion.
Did I make it?
Not yet. We haven't had a motion yet.
I move to authorize the authorization to approve funding in the amount of $55,000 to go to CRETSI for the purpose of the preparation of a community improvement district study, phase 1.
All right, yeah, that's
the
good.
motion.
Okay.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed, nay.
Okay, got it.
All right. Motion carries. All right, very good. Okay, now Executive Director Rowland, I believe
We're down to public comment.
we are down to public comment. All right.
So if anyone else has one, now would be the time to turn it in, and I'll go ahead and read the disclaimer.
Okay.
As a reminder, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Comments relative to any issues that are currently going through the public hearing process, matters that are in active litigation, political campaigning, or partisan politics will not be heard in this meeting. Speakers are to address the chairman, not each other or the audience, and are expected to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. The use of abusive or profane language shall not be allowed. No debate or argument between speakers and/or members of the audience shall be permitted.
All right, thank you so much. And the first up is Ms. Tammy Shayla. Come on up, Ms. Shayla.
Thank you. I wasn't going to speak today, but I've heard some things that are really disturbing to me. First off, Safe Built, and I did send Chris a text. The $17,000, is that a monthly fee, a quarterly fee, or an annual fee? He replied that he thinks it's monthly, but he didn't have the contract in front of him, so that would $209,000 a year for us to pay an outside source to inspect all the construction that you guys have approved in Rockdale County. If hiring a contractor is more expensive than hiring an employee, why do we do some contracts and some employee positions? That I think we need to analyze. The second thing is, I think during Mr. Oden's administration, we have a new sewer treatment plant. When we did that new sewer treatment plant, we made it large enough where we didn't have to pay DeKalb County to take care of our sewer. Now I just saw we're paying them $106,000 for the month of June. Why are we doing that? Is that because of all the construction that we're over capacity, which we keep getting told that we're not over capacity? So I'm not sure which is true. And also it seems like right now we're in a spend mode. We're in a hurry to spend money. Don't know if that's because there's an election coming up in 2024. A lot of citizens are very upset at what's happening in this community. We're engaged, we're meeting. We need to take a step back, just like we do in our personal finances. My budget has not increased 36% in the last 8 years. I can't afford for it to increase because my salary is the same. And for you, I want to address what you said about citizens not coming to the budget meetings. I work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. I'm an hourly employee. When I come to these meetings, I don't get paid. I lose money. To go to a budget meeting during the day, I would lose money. So I have to pick and choose where I spend my time until I retire in 2025. If you don't continue to increase my property taxes, and I have to continue to work. But if you would look at having meetings at night for budget meetings, if that's important to you for the citizens to come, then maybe you would have more participation. But also understand there's a small segment of the population that are interested in budgets, that understand budgets. I have an accounting background, so that would interest me, but I can't come during the day. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shayla. Thank you so much and for all that you do on behalf of the citizens here in Rockdale County. Okay. Next up is Mr. Richard Oden. Come on up, Mr. Oden.
Thank you again, and Commissioners, Chairman, congratulations for a very robust meeting. I thought maybe some of this conversation would probably have been conducted in a work session. But there, I understand the dialogue, and I like the dialogue. I come to commend the chairman for taking the leadership role to listen to the Board of Commissioners. I want to just emphasize, now the Board of Commissioners need to listen to the community. The budget process, as this young lady mentioned, is held during the day, and to throw the citizens up under the bus that only 2 people showed up is ludicrous. If you hold these things in the evening time, citizens can come out and participate. In terms of moving the county forward, motion, in terms of increasing staff, I submitted to you the last time I spoke with you an opportunity for budget reduction and how to, I think, would be helpful in reviewing where we are. Pump the brakes, I heard that word today, on continuing increasing staff. Put a hiring freeze in place, because every time you add someone, it adds to the general fund budget. You can hide it over here, you can hide it over there. At the end of the day, the citizens of Rockdale County, particularly the seniors, I heard the seniors cannot afford to take any increases. They're on fixed income, retirement, you mentioned yourself, Chairman, checks, Social Security checks, or retirement checks, it just don't cut it. Grocery bills is going up, gas is going up, milk is now $3 a gallon, bread is like $2.75 a gallon, $2.75 a loaf. The citizens need help. And the citizens are simply asking and crying to the Board of Commissioners, the fiscal agents of this county, pump the brakes and listen to the voice of the citizens. Otherwise, I sat in that seat, otherwise, what is going to happen is going to happen. What is going to happen is going to happen. I heard some logical thinking today, kudos for that. I heard good dialogue today, kudos for that. We support our Board of Commissioners. We want to support our Board of Commissioners, but the Board of Commissioners must listen to the citizens who elected each and every one of you. And we'll see you in May 2021, 23.
Thank you, Mr. Oden, and thank you for all that you do on behalf of the citizens of Rockdale County. Mr. Fowler, come on up. Come on up, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I was very impressed with the dialogue. Like Richard said, I'm sure a work session you would have got more into the nitty gritty. I was very impressed with some things you represented. I was also impressed with the way you ran the meeting, Brother Arms. But I think what's been said has been said enough. I have heard some things here today I would like for you to really consider. That is pushing the brakes. You talked about the housing, residents, fixed incomes, but you're going up on taxes. We're all on fixed incomes. When they set our salaries, that's it. Consider that, and consider hearing the concerns of the people. And the people are speaking loud and clear that tax increases may not be the best way to advance and progress in this county. Let's look at some options. You mentioned options, but are we looking at the best options? Just presenting options. And I would like for you to consider this, which is probably the most important thing I've heard, and that is consider having your meetings where the community can participate. And then I'd like to make an offer to you. I've been, like I said, a public official. I worked in community and economic development over 40 years. I worked for the National American Red Cross presently. You got some committees you need some service, allow me to serve on one of your committees so you can get additional voices from the community, additional perspectives from the community, and from others who've been in leadership. I moved here, I love being here, I don't want to stay here, but your tax increases is making it very difficult. And the way you're managing and relating to your citizenry is a concern. You got to listen to the people. Thank you.
Mr. Fowler, thank you, and thank you for all that you do on behalf of the citizens of Rockdale County. I want to encourage you not to leave without having a meet and greet with Executive Director Rutledge over there, and she will be glad to get your name because we are always in need of citizens who want to serve. She'll tell you about the various vacancies that we have, if there are any right now, and we'll certainly take your application for service. And thank you for your commitment. Next up is Ms. Johnson, Ashanti Johnson. Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon.
I pretty much came here on behalf of the coaches of Rockdale County, and as a parent,
Could
first
you
and
please?
foremost, yeah.
I can barely hear you. so-
Sure. So,
Thank you.
yeah, my name is Ashanti Johnson, resident of the county. Wanted to come here today as a parent, but also as a current coach for Rockdale County. I wanted to thank Mr. Redmond for coming out. We had some pretty spirited parents about 2 weeks ago in terms of just hearing some of the voices of the parents around the state of the parks, specific to the football program, but you know, I think at the end of the day, the real purpose was really for the parents to start to get organized, to have more of a concerted voice, really around where we want the future of Parks and Recs to go. And you know, I'm here to say thank you first and foremost for coming out. I know that it was definitely noted that, you know, this had been the first time in a long time that, you know, they had seen leadership come out. So it matters. So I know you guys get a lot of dirt thrown at you, but I'm here to say thank you. I'm also here to say that, you know, there's a growing groundswell of parents who are dissatisfied. I'm here to kind of help any way I can to make sure that we head in the right direction. I think it was great to see what's going on with the pickleball courts, you know, in regards to everything going on with the millage rate. Listen, it's common sense, right? The biggest thing going on in Metro Atlanta right now is the Beltline, right? There's definitely a benefit, right, to when we invest in our parks. There's definitely a downstream economic benefit. So I will continue to ask you guys to continue to focus on the continued upkeep and development of the infrastructure as it stands right now for Parks and Rec. We have a lot of baseball fields that flood and don't drain 5 and 6 days out. There's just a lot of work that continues to need to be done. So again, I'm here to double down on the current efforts, but you know, for anything that you guys need from a parental perspective, please, you know, feel free to let me know how I can help.
Mr. Johnson, I want to say thank you for all that you do on behalf of the citizens and really coming out this afternoon and you sitting through our meeting. You're absolutely right. We have a very robust and active Parks and Recreation community, and that includes the football program that we have out in Parks and Rec. We recognize that there's always room for improvement, but it takes citizens like yourself who are actively and positively participating to get involved and to show up, speak up, and share. I also appreciate you recognizing our director, Director Redmond, and that your commitment to work with him. So, yes, sir. Thank you for coming out and keep us posted, and we're going to continue to try to move forward with the progress and the improvements as relate to Parks and Recreation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Mr. Lee Wright. Come on up, Mr. Wright.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Good afternoon, sir.
Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Infrastructure in my neighborhood, Gardens of Fieldstone. Ms. Garcia was talking about it earlier. Back in 2019, before COVID, I met 3 times with people from the departments to come out and look at the infrastructure on this particular drain that she gave you pictures of. That was in 2019. Last week, I met with a gentleman. He came out. We waited all day long for him to get there. When he finally got there, well, I can only be here for a few minutes. I got to go. No, we waited all day long for this guy to get there from your departments. So when he gets there, we show him this one structure.
Mm-hmm.
We took pictures of it. He's taking pictures. The guys previously have taken pictures also. They've used their tablets. They've used their cell phones. Nothing has happened. All I've got was lip service. The guy that I met with last week, he said, Monday, I'll get back with you. Today's Tuesday. Nothing. All we're getting is lip service. Nothing happens. We left that one part that you have pictures of. We went to another neighbor's yard, and it's even worse. This particular drain feeds the church across the street with the Seventh-day Adventists. They've got a retention pond over there. The water table in this particular drain in our neighborhood behind one of our residents' house is down here where the floor is. The drain for the water to go to the retention pond across the street at Seventh-day Adventist is probably as high as the bottom of this TV. Water will never pass from our neighborhood to that retention pond that feeds Westchester neighborhood. Bad planning in the past, and it hasn't gotten any better. So these neighbors, all they're faced with is mosquitoes and snakes. Now, I would like for the head of the table to come out and take a look at this. Put your eyeballs on it, because we're not getting any response back from your subordinates. Okay? So, get up with me. I'll get my machete, like I did last time. Put on your mosquito repellent, put on your boots. Let's go take a look at it.
Mr. Wright, thank you for all that you do on behalf of the citizens of Rockdale County. Let me take ownership, and I will tell you this. I'm embarrassed by what you shared this morning. If you know anything about my level of leadership, if you've had somebody that was rushing when they showed up, I'm surprised you didn't call me. If you know anything about my level of leadership, you know that I would have physically come out myself. Don't worry, I got it. I don't need a response. Watch what I'm about to say. When we close this meeting out, when this meeting is closed, myself, the directors, not the subordinates, the directors, we're all going to be out there at your address. I don't need your address because I've been in your house. I know where you live. I'll see you shortly. Thank you. Next up is Mr. George Kellercheck.
Good afternoon, Chairman,
Good
Commissioners,
afternoon.
citizens of Rockdale County. A couple of public service announcements regarding the Haynes watershed. We've had significant buy-in from the cities and the counties in the Haynes watershed. Here is a letter on city letterhead from the city of Grayson approving for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to come in and do a 100% federally funded assessment of the 4 counties. Rockdale County has provided Kimberly Peak. He has forwarded that on to your county attorney. We are going to the city of Grayson tomorrow to thank the mayor there, and then we'll be over at the city of Snellville meeting with them. So Gwinnett County, Newton County's ready to go. 100% federally funded assessment, so we need to do. And then we'll have 65% funds from the EPD, EPA, and the state and the federal government to, once they give us this assessment, then we'll have monies, to work with. So I know you said in a barbershop meeting a couple weeks ago, you don't turn down federal or state monies. Okay?
That's right.
So I appreciate it if you would get that through the attorney and get that signed and get it down to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, please. I went to the state of Virginia. This is the signage that they have in their Chesapeake Bay watershed. I'm working with GDOT and the different counties to have this type of signage throughout the watershed so people know where the watershed is. And then also all the rivers and streams, you will actually have this type of signage on your state roads. Secondly, the Rockdale Saltwater Conservation District, along with Georgia Growing and Rockdale Public School System, will be hosting a venue in April 2024. We'll be hosting between 500 and 1,000 people, students and parents, to let them know that we, last year we gave $25,000 in scholarships at the ABAC Baldwin College in Tifton. And these are for agricultural type careers, but we want to share with these students. You don't have to get your hands dirty to be in the ag industry or the conservation industry. So as we move forward, I'll be letting the community know more about this operation. Okay? So thank you very much. Appreciate all your help.
Thank you, Mr. Kellercheck, and Thank you for all that you do on
I
behalf
have
of
a
the
question
citizens
for Mr.
of Rockdale
Kellercheck.
County. And I want to also,
But a ruler so you can measure.
I want to also take a moment to, and I'm going to yield to the commissioner in just a second. I want to take a moment to thank Mr. Kellercheck for championing the call in the area of soil conservation. There's been some confusion in our community as to who the real soil conservation people are. And Mr. George Kellercheck works tirelessly almost every day. There's not a day, including Saturday or Sunday, that we don't receive an email from George somewhere between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning. And we thank you for your diligence and your persistence. Let's give Mr. Kellercheck a round of applause. Commissioner Washington?
I have a question, Mr. Kellercheck. Recently, the United States in U.S. versus Sackett has greatly diminished the protections that the United States has given the watershed districts. And they have taken away almost 60% of the amount of environmental protections, greatly diminishing what is considered a watershed protection district. Have you done any analysis, or can you provide any analysis on how that United States Supreme Court decision is affecting our watershed district?
Currently, to answer your question, when I was in Washington, D.C. A couple of months ago, I addressed this with the environmental and law teams with Senator Ossoff, Warnock, and Congressman Hank Johnson. We have actively, through the Georgia Water Coalition, who has over 250 affiliates in the state of Georgia, working on this, specifically the Southern Environmental Law Center, which is the largest environmental law center in the country. They are actively working on this item to, again, work with the EPA regarding these certain details. So it is being worked on and being addressed by the Southern Environmental Law Center and the Georgia Water Coalition. And that's all I have in that, to answer that question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, Mr. Arlen Gibson. Come on up, Mr. Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all the commissioners. I just wanted to go ahead and just comment on a couple of things that I enjoyed the discussion today about various kinds of things that are affecting the county. One of the things that I'd like to go ahead and emphasize is where we talked about grant writers. It's important that grant writers be in the county, because if you don't have the grant writers, you lose revenue that's coming into the county. So that's very important, and if that could be a major priority for the commissioners and the chairman today, that would certainly help us in bringing in new revenue streams into the county. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, I noticed that we talked about a whole new department proposal today, and I saw no numbers or financial kinds of impact that it would have on the county budget. So if you do look at that, please could you inform us of how much that's going to go ahead and cost the citizens of Rockdale? We would certainly appreciate it. The other thing, very rapidly, I'd like to go ahead and say that it's important that we have, you're right, I haven't always come to the meetings like I should, and I'm going to go ahead and make a public statement today. I'm going to go ahead and come in a lot more often and inform myself about some of the things that are going on in the county. However, there are a couple points that people have made today about having meetings in the evening. Folks work 9 to 5. They work during the day. And so they can't come to the meetings like the young lady said over here. So if there could be integrated some evening meetings along with the day meetings at some point in time, so that other people who are working could have an opportunity to participate in this process. So that's something that I just like to go ahead and bring out. And I think that if we do that, you will see a great swell of more people coming in to participate in this political process. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Gibson, thank you.
You're right.
Thank you for all that you do on behalf of the citizens of Rockdale County. I want to yield just for a moment, Commissioners, to Executive Director Rutledge. She's been chipping at the bit over there to talk about what we've done in terms of evening meetings and the history of these evening meetings in Rockdale County, and what has happened with the shift of COVID and what we've done coming back. Executive Director Rutledge, would you speak to that, if you would, please?
So prior to COVID, we actually had some board meetings on the road. We partnered up with the school system, and we would go to all the schools on the north side, south side, even over in JH House. But after COVID, we came back here, and right now we hold 2 board meetings a month. One, an evening work session on the 3rd Tuesday at 6 p.m. And then on the 4th Thursday of every month, we have our zoning public hearing, which is always held in the evening. The board has from time to time moved locations and times fitting to whatever we may be doing, like, for example, a millage rate hearing or a budget hearing or things like that. So our next evening work session will be the 3rd Tuesday in September, which is September the 19th at 6 p.m. in this building.
I really appreciate you taking time, because I agree that it's important, and that's been the sentiment of a few of our public speakers and comments today, that we listen to the citizens. I wanted to make sure that it is clear that we have offered, and we've had multiple evening meetings in the past. We've done that, and we will certainly take that into deep consideration. I also want to take a moment to talk about last year at the same time, as a result of the millage rate and the outpouring of folks last year, we implemented what was called the info sessions, where we took each of the 15 county departments and we dedicated an evening almost from February to October for folks to come out and to learn and to be educated and informed about all of the inner workings of our various departments. As our employees were staying at those events each evening, we were hosting them over at the Rockdale Auditorium. We had a very small amount of citizens to come out so they could learn about the departments and the inner workings, actually hearing from the directors and the deputy directors intimately, and having a platform to ask questions and to engage, to have a better understanding how Parks and Rec work, how stormwater work, how public relations work, all of these various departments. Then we noticed that people were not coming. So we had to make a decision not to continue to tax our employees who had worked a regular shift throughout the day to stay over to 8 and sometimes 9 p.m. in the evening when people were not coming out. As in the case of a week or so ago when we hosted our budget reviews, they were open to the public. We appreciate the 2 people that came out on the 2 days. However, that is the time that's dedicated so that folks can engage. And by the way, those were held into the evening. We were late into the day, throughout the entire day, and into the evening. We're listening to you and we know it. And I really appreciate Mr. Gibson's closing comments about he admitting the fact that he hadn't been as involved as he'd like to be, but he has pledged to be more involved and more engaging. The same thing goes with Mr. Johnson. I certainly do appreciate your support for Parks and Recreation and your comments about the improvements and offering your help. It's easy to sit out and to point the finger. We have to make sure that we're moving in the best interest of the entire county. Nothing about what we do is easy. In fact, I often say, beware of easy. We have to make decisions as leaders. Sometimes those decisions are quite uncomfortable and they're tough. So we know and we believe that we're acting in the best interest of Rockdale County. What you witnessed today was good, healthy dialogue that should take place among your Board of Commissioners. And we believe, compared to so many other places, we're rocking and rolling in the right direction. I want to yield at this point, and I'll start with board comment from Commissioner Washington. Commissioner?
Sure. First, to talk about the evening meetings. So this year, I've had three coffee and conversations where we've talked about economic development, we've talked about housing, we've talked about a forum just so that you can ask whatever questions you wanted, anything, not personal, was on the table, anything about the county. And we just had a healthy conversation. All of those were in the evening. I've had housing forums, those are in the evening. I'm open to go to anybody's homeowners association meeting, so I'm willing to travel to get whatever word out. So I do believe that at least Post 1 is trying to have things so that the community is involved and informed about the things that I know about and the education that I'm receiving on behalf of the citizens. That being said, we are getting ready to announce another couple of events that will be in the evening, and hopefully you all will come to anything that's in the evening. I did want to, changing the subject, the Bill Pickett Rodeo was here last weekend, and they had this year was their 39th year of having the Bill Pickett Rodeo. They did have it at the horse park. And next year will be their 40th anniversary. The gentleman who started the Bill Pickett Rodeo, he passed away, but his widow has taken it on. And now they have a foundation where they give scholarships and they give sessions with fathers so that they can help single fathers as part of their ministry. So next year, you all put it on your calendar as the first or second Saturday in August, and they're going to have a grand celebration here in Rockdale County for their 40th anniversary. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Williams, board comments.
Okay. I've been busy the last couple of weeks, been to Forsyth County and Toombs County with policy meetings. Those are always interesting to see what the state organization, association, the Georgia Association of County Commissioners is going to work with the legislature on in a number of different areas. So I learned some things, and those were good meetings. We had our nonprofit appreciation brunch last Thursday. It was very well attended. Karen Greer was our keynote speaker. She is an anchor on WSB TV on the 5 o'clock news. She did a great job of making very personal the opportunities for service and the impacts of service in the community. So that was really good. So do we have a video on that? Is that okay? Good morning. I am so excited this morning. It's our 5th annual Nonprofit Appreciation Brunch. I don't know what our community would do without our nonprofits. They provide such charitable service to some of our most vulnerable populations. It's going to be a really nice event as we honor those who serve the most. Our theme this year is Service is Our Love Language. And I can't think of a better thing to typify our nonprofits.
Just knowing that you've done everything you can do is wonderful, because you were there when they needed you most. And that's going to keep happening, because people are still in trouble. Financially, emotionally, we're seeing more mental illness than we have probably ever seen. We have to do more.
Thank you, Public Relations, for that. That was really well done. Thank you.
I think it deserves a round of applause. If it
I
has to
think
be.
so too. And then the last thing I have is that as I have been working with the Division of Senior Services with Deputy Director Susan Morgan, on a dementia initiative to make Rockdale County more dementia-friendly and to increase awareness. Susan Morgan and I attended what's called a Memory Cafe up at the Roswell Senior Center last Friday. And that was very informative, very interesting to see what they are doing to provide services for those people with dementia and for their caregivers. So, it was a good opportunity to see and to get some ideas on things that we could implement here in Rockdale County. So those are my comments.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. So, Executive Director, well, I'm going to go with Chief Sanders. Chief Sanders, are there any comments or announcements that we need to be made aware of as we move forward to close out our meeting?
Just good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioner. Just wanted to clarify on the resolution for the PFA was on the agenda, but also on the complex, a little bit of misinformation. Actually, 66% of the space will be utilized for court services and 34% for administration.
Can you repeat that? Move forward to the microphone, kind of close, so they can hear that and capture that.
Yes.
You made Deidre nervous to that number. You can speak up so she can hear you real good.
For the concept for the judicial and administrative complex, the space allocation in the concept, 66% is for courts and support services, and 34% would be for the administration facility. A little bit of confusion there because actually 85,000 square feet would be new courthouse, and then 60,000 would be the renovated courthouse space. So just to I wanted to clarify that. The other aspect, as far as the infrastructure and the site that we have, we are undergoing geotechnical and field testing and utility investigations. We also have our experts on board, stormwater, transportation, technology, water, and we have contingency built in for any unforeseen. So we are doing all of that research to ensure that we are not building on old infrastructure. I just wanted to clarify those things because we are moving forward with design. We had our kickoff meeting and we're getting ready to go.
Chief Sanders, thank you for that point of clarification. I think it's important that citizens know that as well. We're making a major investment. First time in 100 years we've had this level of improvement with our court services, and truly a administrative division building here in Rockdale County that is long overdue. It's important that we're able to entertain those concerns and bring factual information. I also want to encourage you, feel free to jump in at any time, because a lot of the folks that we're talking about, that they're already gone now. Hopefully they'll be able to watch this broadcast and pick up on the information and the point of clarity that you've brought in terms of the courthouse and the administrative facility that we're excited about coming online in Rockdale County. It's much needed and overdue. You talk to anybody that works in that courthouse and they'll tell you how overdue it is. The number of cases, the caseload, and all the activity that's taking place over there. The fact that we're out of compliance, ADA, and that's an old historical building, which is why we're still in the main point of Paramount and MGM in terms of movie shoots and that kind of thing, because they like finding places. We're rare. It's hard to find a place like Rockdale County that has a courthouse structure that reminds them of way back in the day. We've got to move forward, and that's a part of that moving forward process. Executive Director Rutledge, any announcements from your area, your wheelhouse?
I have no more announcements today.
All right, well, let me ask this question.
All right?
Is there any need for executive session following this meeting?
No, Mr. Chair.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy Tuesday. This meeting is adjourned.